Is motivation all it's cracked up to be? We preach motivation nonstop. We say that motivation is the answer to everything, but is it really? I'm diving into all that in today's episode, so strap in, get ready for episode 241. Let's go.
The future of fitness.
How do you gain muscle mass?
Fitness is not complicated. It's simple when you break it down.
There's so much information out there.
No fads, no diets, just plain simple habits.
You're listening to the Bones to Bulk podcast.
Hey, welcome to today's episode. My name is Brian Parody, and I will be your host today. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here. If this is your first time listening, thank you just for tuning in. I do short 10-minute or ish episodes, and just to try to drop some knowledge in very simple, easy to follow steps. And for my return listeners, thank you for coming back. It means the world to me that you continue to tune in. If you have not joined our Facebook community, please head on over to Facebook, search Bones to Bulk, and request to join the group. We have an amazing bunch of people over there on all parts of the journey, from beginner to intermediate to advanced to other trainers, like the whole gamut. So definitely go check that out if you're on Facebook. With that being said, let's dive in. So probably the number one thing I get asked is, how do I stay motivated to work out? It's across the board. That is the question that people ask me, probably more than anything else. And you know what my answer is? I don't stay motivated. There are so many days when I am not motivated. There are days when my alarm goes off at 4:40 and I just hit the snooze and oversleep and then have to go later in the day to the gym and didn't get in the morning. Like, motivation is, I think, the most overhyped thing. Maybe not most overhyped, but it's one of the top overhyped things that's out there. Side note, this is going to be a rabbit trail. We set up this recording booth in one of the closets in our house because my wife and I, we both, have podcasts. And so it just made sense. We had this closet that we weren't doing anything with, and we were like, hey, let's turn this into a recording booth. So yeah, I'm standing in like a dark closet recording this. Anyway, that's a side note, and you probably didn't care, but I thought it was interesting. Anyway, so motivation. Motivation is very... It's kind of like, motivation will last for a few seconds or a few minutes, and then it's gone. How many times have you gotten super motivated over something? Maybe you watched a movie, maybe you went to a conference, maybe you read a book and it got you all pumped up, and then you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning and you're like, I don't really feel motivated anymore. It's here and gone. And that's just the way motivation works. So that's why I'm saying, like, motivation is overhyped, because we expect that, well, in order to get fit, to stay healthy, to work out, to eat right, I've got to be motivated all the time to do that. No, you don't. Like, you're not going to be motivated all the time. In fact, most of the time you will be unmotivated, and there will be very small spurts where you're actually motivated. And the reason for this is because, life is interesting. Like, we go about life, we get caught up in the day-to-day, and we kind of forget our goals. We forget the things we're going after. We forget that the motivation is gone. Like, we just forget that. So you're like, okay, well, that sucks. Now what? Like, here's the thing. I'm not against motivation. Like, I listen to things to get me motivated. I will go to conferences. I will do all those things. I'm not going necessarily to get motivated. I'm going to make connections, and I'm going to learn things. And I have, a music playlist that helps pump me up for the gym, but I know that that's still not enough. Like, those things help, don't get me wrong, and they can help just that little extra inch that you need to go to get there. It can definitely, push you over the edge. But in order to kind of get up to that ledge, the way you get there is through the development of habit. Habit is, without doubt, the most important element to any fitness journey. It's habit and building those habits. And how do we build habits? We don't build them overnight. Think about a bad habit you have. You've probably spent years working on that bad habit. Am I right? Whether it's biting fingernails, whether it's eating junk food, whether it's whatever. Like, we all have bad habits, and they develop over years and years and years. So it's ridiculous to think, well, I'm just going to get rid of this bad habit overnight and start all over with good habits. That's good intentions, don't get me wrong, but in reality, it's not going to happen. You have to slowly build habit. And so what I suggest to do that is, pick one thing. Pick one thing that you are able to, really work on. Maybe it's just focusing on your breakfast being healthy and no other meals, just your breakfast. Maybe it's making sure that you're at the gym 5 days a week. Whatever it is, pick one habit. Maybe it's just something as simple as going for a 10-minute walk a day or drinking 72 ounces of water a day. It doesn't have to be this huge, crazy, thing that you set out to do, but pick one thing and develop the habit of that. And do whatever it takes to make sure that you maintain that habit. And do that for a few weeks and then add something else in. Habit builds habit. So as you create habits and as you become confident in those habits, then it becomes easier to do more positive habits and build upon that. It's kind of like a stair step. We don't climb a mountain by going from the very bottom to the very top at once. It's all the steps in between that get us there. And while I don't think there's this elusive peak of fitness to where we arrive and everything's over, I think there's always more we can learn and do, push ourselves in. I do think that it's very much like the mountain. You have to take that first step. If you just look at the peak, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to be like, crap, I'm never going to make it there. Well, no, not with that mentality. But just focus on the step in front of you. Like, okay, I can do this next step. I can do these next 10 steps. I know that. So I'm going to do those next 10 steps the best way I know how, and I'm going to go hard at it. And then that's going to teach me like, hey, okay, I accomplished these 10 steps. I probably can accomplish the next 10 steps because those were hard, but I was able to do it. And it builds that confidence. It builds that initiative. And so that's how we build habit. That is what we do. Now, that's not necessarily always enough. That's like a foundational point to building habit. But another element to that is you've got to be setting yourself up to be able to maintain those habits. For example, if you commit to going for a walk for 15 minutes a day, and that's your first habit you're going to do, right? And let's say you have one window to do that, and it's maybe on your lunch hour. Let's say it's on your lunch hour, you have a little extra time, and you can go walk for 15 minutes. Okay, well, guess what you've got to make sure you're not doing is getting lost on your phone during your lunch break or getting wrapped up in going out to lunch with coworkers or colleagues. Or, you've got to dedicate that time, set an alarm on your phone. Make sure that you are at the location that you need to be at in order to do that. Like, you've got to set yourself up for success, because if you wait for the day of to figure it out, you won't. The time will come, and if you haven't prepared, you're just going to be like, oh, well, I'll start tomorrow. Does that ring a bell? If you ever ran into that, the epitome of that tomorrow aspect always looms in our lives. It's like, well, I messed up today, or I didn't build a habit today, so I'll start fresh next week. I'll start on Monday. Why? Okay, if you messed up, cool, and maybe, because of time, you're not able to make it right that day. Well, guess what? The next day, plan for it right in that moment when you know you've screwed up. Plan for the next day. Okay, this is why it didn't work out today. How can I avoid that happening tomorrow? What steps do I need to put in place so that the same thing doesn't happen tomorrow where I'm saying tomorrow? You know what I'm saying? So it's a combination of habit, but to build that habit, you have to prepare. You have to have things in place. You can't just wing it and expect stuff to happen. You wouldn't do that in really any other area of life. If you're trying to get a job, and you're preparing and you're maybe getting a degree, or you're honing your skill and you're building your resume, you're going to do all those things in order to get the job, right? You're not just going to be like, well, I'd like to have that job. That sounds kind of cool, even though I know nothing about it, and then just walk in, not prepared at all for the interview. Guess what? You're probably not going to get that job. Same way, like, you can't expect just to wing this and it work out. You've got to make actionable habits, and you have to prepare for those actions. I hope this helps. I hope it gives you some insight for maybe how to start if you've been stuck and just kind of not sure how to get going. I would love to connect with you. If you are on any social media platform, please check us out. We are at Bones to Bulk everywhere on Instagram, TikTok. I already mentioned we have a great Facebook community, Pinterest. We have a great YouTube channel, well over 500 videos now. So I promise you there's probably a video on the topic, youtube.com/Bones to Bulk. With that being said, remember, no matter what walls you're facing, what things you're coming up against, you can accomplish any goal that you set your mind to. You've got this.